Want to make something cool? Thanks for stopping by and checking out Trash Panda Patterns and finding out how to make one of these scroll dice bags today. I know at the moment I don't have a lot of patterns up. There's a lot to come, so please keep checking back. I've got the links down below for Etsy shop. Socials are all coming. Keep an eye out. There's a lot of D&D type content coming. A bunch of different dice bags. I got some Mimic stuff coming that I'm really happy with. And just got to make all the videos for it. So keep an eye out. There's lots more coming. But let's go ahead and get started with this today. First thing we're going to do is look at some of the leather options before you get started so you know what to use. Then we'll dig into how to use the pattern and we'll get going from there. So let's have some fun. You'll want to take a few things into consideration with your materials when you make these. You can make them out of anything, but they do behave a little differently. So this guy here is one of our 7-inch, and I made it with a thicker oil tan, and it really holds its body up well. Everything rolls together nicely. The tray stands really well. You don't have to really do anything with it. The end pieces I did line with the same oil tan, which gives them a little bit of structure so they're not quite so floppy. This is really my recommendation on how you want to do this. Veg tan would work just the same as oil tan, but you want something with a little bit of body. You can go lighter, like this guy here, and this is just a little bit on the thinner side. Let's take a look here. This is right at about 3 ounces on this guy. The oil tan was more in the 4 to 5 range. On this one, you can see it's a little floppier. The tray wants to pull apart a little bit, which is not a problem. It still works perfectly fine. A little bit different of a look to it. It's much lighter, easier to kind of work with. So that has the benefits as well. This is similar to the oil tan, where it's just a little bit of a lightweight, but has more body to it. Oh, that snap does not want to come off. There we go. And again, this one holds up pretty well. So it's really the temperament of the leather that you're looking for more so than the weight. What you do want to be really careful about is like this little guy here. So this one I made out of suede. Now the end pieces I lined with veg tan so they would help hold that shape. But when you take a look at how this kind of unfolds, it loses all shape. Now this one I left unlined to kind of show you. It really becomes very floppy. Now, still works as a dice tray. Just not quite as nice as the others. And this is something, if you really like the suede, you could go in with like a veg tan liner on this, and that would help give it its body. Still recommend that you use the heavier weight on the outside than the lining, but it is an option. Size this is to easily print on letter paper. Works perfectly fine on A4 as well. Everything is actually brought a little bit inside, with these dashed lines being where you can cut to tape it into another piece. So on A4, you'll just have a little bit of extra space. Page 1 is just kind of your key. It lets you know what my symbols mean on the pattern. And then it also gives you a size check. So you can go ahead and check that out, make sure that we're right at 5 centimeters, or you can use 2 inches. Just to let you know that everything print correctly. The 5-inch version is pages 2 through 6. You can just print that if you want. 7 inches 7 through 12, you can print everything. And the very last page is just a key that shows you how each piece gets taped together so that you can cut it all out and make it work. So any of the holes that are blank or filled in white are required to build the pattern. It will not work if you don't punch those holes. So that's going to be all around the top section, and that's going to be your side cap pieces that go in here. Anything with a black circle is going to be optional. That is for the inlay pieces. So if you don't want to do a bottom inlaid, if you don't want to do the side pieces, you don't have to punch those. And if you're not punching those, don't cut this out, don't cut this out, don't cut this out. You can ignore all of that. All you need is the main piece and the 2 sides. we're going to go ahead and do everything here, and we're going to use the magic of video editing and get that all cut out and tape. All right, so we went ahead and got our 5-inch piece cut out. This is going to be the zipper that we're going to use, 5 inches. It'll fit right there. We'll get back to that once we cut it out. So what we're going to need to do is go ahead and get all of these holes punched. We'll get it all cut out, and then I've got some nice red suede that I've used for the accent pieces and for the side pieces. Now, for the main body, you want something that's got a little bit of thickness to it, a little bit of body that'll hold its shape. It falls apart really floppy if you use anything too thin, almost like a suede that doesn't have body to it. It'll fall apart. But the lining, suede works excellent for. All of the holes should be at a 6mm spacing. I've got my Cinnabox here. Absolutely love them. I think they're fantastic punches. I'm going to go ahead and get this knocked out here, and we will get back to after everything is punched out. Okay, now that we have all of our stitching holes punched, we need to cut our zipper out, and we need to punch for our snaps. Now, on the pattern, if we look here, it'll mark an A snap or a B snap. Doesn't matter which you use for which, as long as you are consistent throughout the entire pattern. So for this time, we're going to use the little cup for the A, and we will use the insert that goes into it for the B. I like, when you're talking about the back for the punch, or for the snap, the ones that are unfinished, I like to use for these two pieces, because that unfinished side is going to be inside. You won't see it. I like to use those for these two. Again, they're going to be inside the bag. You'll never see them. I like to use these for these two guys here, because the lining will cover the back of it, so you won't see it. Anywhere where the back is visible, I prefer to use the ones that actually have the domed head on them. So for that case, we're going to use those up here. Those are going to be visible, and these guys back here are going to be visible. So we'll use these caps for those. Let's go ahead and get those punched out. I did leave the letter out of the center, so after you punch the center, you can still tell which one needs to go there. If you don't keep this around and forget, on page 13, you can also look, the letters are marked on any of these as well. All right, for our zipper, I like to use a hole punch for getting right here in the ends, and then we can go ahead and use our straight razor for cutting those. This is a 3/8 inch. It fits into that area real well. All right. Get ourselves a nice fresh razor blade. Let's go ahead and give it a quick strop. Make sure we're getting sharp. There we are. For the rest of this, use either your razor, or I've actually got really nice shears that I like to use that I find to be very easy for getting through this. Some of these little points here where you've got the smaller spots, your blade's gonna fit into that better, or you can even get yourself a flat punch like this, and that is great for those little areas if you need a little extra help clipping that out. But we're just gonna go ahead and get that cut out and we'll be right back. Okay, at this point, our main piece is all cut out. We've got our snap holes, we've got our sewing holes, and we've got our spot for our zipper. I'm going to go ahead and set the snaps now. Then we're going to move on to punching the stitch holes and snaps for the liners, get those cut out. We'll then sew the zipper in and start putting it all together. And I'll show you the order to do that. But first off, let's go ahead and get our snaps in place. So snaps that go here are going to come in from the unfinished side, and they're going to be on the outside. And these are the ones B. Like I said, I'm going to use the inserts as my B. Okay, these guys are also going to be B. These are the ones that, like I said, are going to show from the tops. We want to use our finished backs, and that finished back is going to be on the outside, and the insert is going to be on the inside. So these, once we get this rolled up, are going to come over and snap into the side, snap into the side to show and create our dice tray. So next, we've got the opposite end down here. These are going to be our A's. So these are going to be the cups. Again, we're going to go ahead and put the non-pretty unfinished side here. We need that cup to be on the inside. We're going to put that here where it's going to get stitched over, because we need that on the outside. This is going to fold up and create that dice tray here. So we need that piece to be here. That's going to be our A. All right, and last ones on this piece are again going to be these guys. Finished cap through the outside so that we can put part B, the insert that will go with the cup, here. guys work together. And we've got our snap and our snap. Starting to get a dice tray. We're going to go ahead and move on before we do anything else on this to get the other pieces punched out. Actually, while we're here, let me show you the zipper. So we're going to go ahead we've got our zipper, can go either way, doesn't matter. What I like to do is use a little bit of double-sided tape. Now this is going to go on the top of your zipper. Always be careful if you got a blade heading towards yourself. There we go. All right, so once that's out, zipper lined up in the middle there, just like that, and we get that punched down. So now that's going to hold for us while we go to stitch that later. The needles will go straight through there without a problem, and we'll be good to go. All right, we're going to set that aside for now. At this point, we are just back to punching holes. Okay, on the suede, I really prefer to use the shears to cut them out versus the razor. I find that the suede is so flexible and moves that the shears end up giving me a much cleaner cut on the suede. All right, nothing fancy. We're just going to go ahead and repeat that for all the rest of our pieces. All right, we're going to go ahead and use a red thread here. I think that'll look nice against our brown and match with our red suede. Go ahead and get each of our needles threaded. Every stitch on this is just going to be a saddle stitch. So nothing too fancy. That threaded, it doesn't want to thread. There we go. Okay. We're going to start from this side. That way we can see our stitching holes since we don't have the holes punched through the zipper. You can go back and punch the holes through the zipper. That's not a problem. Makes it really easy to see what you're doing actually. But this does work just fine coming through. So if you start from the top and pull through, that's going to show you your next stitching hole through the back. And we're going to continue all the way down this piece. as you go, pull both your pieces, same direction. I like to pull in the direction of the stitch line. Try to keep everything nice and straight and even looking. All right, we'll be back as soon as this is done. Okay, once we get to the end of our stitch, we want to go ahead and either back stitch or over stitch before we snip and burn this off. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and just do a couple back stitches. I like to put mine on the kind of corner there where I finish off and they're doubled up. Okay. And trim those, and we're going to go ahead and melt that. All right. Now we have a zipper. So I'm not going to make you watch me sew everything. We're going to go ahead and get that done and come back. But like I said, we're going to go ahead and do our side pieces, end and bottom. Now if you want to, since this is the bottom of a dice tray, you can go ahead and use a cement to help hold it down. It usually sits really well and flat on its own where you don't need to, but if you've got a piece of leather that's got a lot of give and pull to it, you may want to go ahead and put some glue down. We're not going to mess with that in this point. This sits really flat, and by the time we stitch it, it's going to sit real nice. We're not going to have to worry about that. I will get this sewed up and we'll get back to you. Now, one last note before you do, make sure with your snaps, before you sew this piece down, that that snap is on the outside and that the backing's on the inside that's going to get covered up. You don't want to have your snap facing the way and sew around it. All right, see you when it's all done. Okay, we've got all of our pieces stitched on, main piece down except for this side. We're still open here. That'll get stitched down in a minute. We've got our two edge pieces now. These are going to be where we start next. Okay, does not matter where on the circle we start, but on this piece, we need to start at the hole right next to the one where it comes across. So this is where our line comes down through here. We are one hole over. The face of this that's on the outside goes against the inside of this piece. Again, we're just going to use our saddle stitch and head all the way around. Okay, when we get down to our last stitch, we want to pull it in to where this sits on top of the red. I don't know if you can see that. We're going to have it fold in like this. So we're going to have an odd stitch where we come through the back here, and we're going to go up through our final hole. And then let's head up through here. Through our suede. And then we actually want to pop out through this guy so that we can fill that one last back stitch. So we're going to come up through here. And then up through the face of that one. And so I like to do 1 or 2 stitches down the body here to help get everything to lay flat. Well, I didn't get some holes punched real well here. So as we get the other side done and the stitch down, this will really take its round shape. Right now, it doesn't want to hold that shape. You got to kind of fight it, which is why it's nice to give it a couple extra stitches down through here before we tie off to make sure that everything actually sits flat and right and doesn't come undone. It wants to fight us at this point. So now I suggest, normally I wouldn't suggest this, to tie a knot on the inside here. Normally I think snipping it and burning it gives you a nice clean look. Normally you don't ever need a knot, but as much as we are twisting and turning on this as we are trying to finish it, I like to go ahead and put this guy down, and considering it's on the inside of the bag, you're not ever going to see it. So now we've got that small knot there. But that's going to really hold while we get our other piece and get across the bottom so that nothing comes apart. So I'm going to go ahead and pause you. I'm going to get this other guy done, and then we'll head across the bottom. I like to give myself enough thread that I can actually do the round and bottom all out of one stitch. I find it's easiest just to head into it and go. So I'm going to get the round part done, and I'll get back to you as I start cutting across. Okay, again, as we get towards the very last stitch, we've got one hole left here, one here. We're going to come up through this guy, this is our inside stitch. Through, and now that's the one that's going to go straight down. Now remember, we do need a single back stitch here. That's going to be our other guy. We're going to go ahead and get this one here. And this is where you're going to need to be inside and open on the bag now. And this is the guy that we're going to pop out here. And then come up through here. And then get us back in line for doing our saddle stitch. Oops. Okay, so now in order to finish this out, we're just going to go saddle stitch straight down, but we're going to have to go through the inside here. So take your time. It's not too bad, it's just a little awkward. And you'll get all your stitches done. Do it one at a time and just double check as you go that everything's looking like it's supposed to. Now, this is something, so this is the smaller size bag. This is the 5-inch. When you've got the 7, you actually have a little more real estate to open this up and work, which makes it a little easier. If you do end up struggling getting all the way across, especially in the corners, what you can do is sew to the middle and sew to the middle. Makes it a little easier, I find, as you come off this and have to do it anyway. If you just end up meeting in the middle, can help too. But honestly, just take your time and you'll get this no problem. As you get 5 or 6 stitches in, that's the point where you can really start to see inside. And so it's going to make it a whole lot easier. You'll notice things just kind of start falling in place. And as you stitch more and more, all the holes will line up and you'll have a much easier time as you go, as that one just came right through. our last stitch. And so if we look, we're all the way across. Again, this is one time where I think it's perfectly acceptable to go ahead and do a knot. You finish your thread however you want, your project. I just got you to this point. All right, at this point in the project, stop and just admire that you just made something cool. You turned a bunch of individual parts into an actual project. Before you get upset about any mistakes you think you might made or whatnot, just be happy that you made something cool. Let's test it out. Right. Dice fit in great. Pencil fits in great. All right, let's go ahead and turn this into our dice tray so the sides snap up. Oh, come on. Uh-oh. That's why you always want to test your stuff before you move on. We might have a snap that needs to be replaced. I'm going to try to force this. Okay, so that went in. There we go. Now we work. All right. We have a dice tray. And so this is again where I talked to earlier. If you want to, this can either just be smoothed out or a little bit of glue will help hold that down so you don't have any wrinkles on this. Now, once we're done, what we're going to do, fold in, fold in. This is going to roll back to where these can snap. And then these guys here will fold over and snap on the ends. There we go. All one easy to carry case. Now, let's take some time to be critical. Let's go back and look at our project and see, is there anything that needs to be fixed? Is there anything we can fix? And is there anything we just want to improve upon next time? So, if we're selling this product, let's make sure we get all of our punch holes cleaned up. We can take a brush, we can float through, take a piece of tape, whatever it is, we ultimately want to get all of those cleaned up. We verified all of our snaps work. Take a look through. So in this case, our sides on this are a little squishy. And so if you wanted to, the suede, we could replace with the same leather for the sides, give it a little more support, or you could even back that suede. We could use a little bit of veg tan and put it on there, and that would give it a little more structure just so it doesn't squish as much. And that's kind of a personal preference. Something that I noticed when I was going earlier is that my liner sticks over a little bit. So I am going to take a knife here and just clean that up ever so slightly. All right, so now we got that cleaned up. I think we're pretty good. Let's take a look at the 7-inch pattern and what it looks like done, and we'll see about closing up from here.